My name is Bob Babbitt, and welcome to Babbittville Classic Rewind, a collection of my favorite interviews with some of the legends of endurance sports that have aired over the past 3 decades. I'm hoping you will enjoy these interviews as much as I do. As always, endurance lives here. Muddy Buddy coming up August 10th at beautiful Vale Lake out in...
Who's going to be your partner, Babbitt?
I'll be my frog costume, Huddle. I'll be entertaining.
You'll be the game show host.
I will be the game show host. Yeah. I'm trying to find a green Speedo, which would be, appropriate for Muddy Buddy.
You mean you don't have a green Speedo in your closet with all the others?
I've got the orange.
Yeah.
Got the chartreuse. Do not have that one. Nice. Huddle.
Yeah.
Back from Ironman, Idaho. Good time?
Ironman USA Coeur d'Alene.
Oh yeah. Ironman Idaho. Nobody knows what the heck Coeur d'Alene.
It was a great race. It really came off well for a first time event. You have a lot of worries. You don't know how the town's going to respond. All the volunteers. It was phenomenal. Volunteers were, we had 4,000 volunteers on race day, and they showed up, which is always nice.
It's hard to hide in Coeur d'Alene.
Yeah,
if they don't show people know.
It was a great event. The only thing, obviously, that happened, you might have heard, it was hot.
It was 97 degrees.
It was
about that?
Incredibly hot. Can't do anything about that. No. But, no, it was a great race. Fantastic race by Mike Lovato. I think that kid is obviously found his running legs. He's the real deal, and we're going to hear from him in Hawaii.
What's interesting, Huddle, is it can be hot. It can be brutal in any of those days, but it's the fact that I didn't hear one complaint about it was hot and we ran out of water.
Believe me, I was worried.
Yeah, absolutely. But
when it's that hot, people aren't just drinking; they're dumping it on their heads. So you really get worried about stuff like that.
And now they have aid stations. Back when Gordon Haller won the Ironman in 1978, I'm sure he was looking for a nice sprinkler to drink out of. The first winner ever of the Ironman Triathlon, 1978, Gordon Haller joins us from his Ironman palatial estate somewhere in the world. How you doing, Gordon?
I'm doing fine, Bob.
Hey, thanks so much for taking time, bud, to come on with us.
Hey, Gordon, where are you, by the way? Where is that palatial estate that you're hanging out in?
I'm actually renting a room from a friend in Nashville.
Oh,
nice.
With all the prize money from that 78 race?
Right.
And the sponsorship that came along with it?
Yeah, that's about right.
Gordon, what do you remember about that? When did you hear about this thing that John Collins is putting together? Because it's not like people think of Ironman now, they think of brass bands at the finish line, 2,000 people in the race. You had 15 people out there, 15 crazies, doing something that had never been done before. 2.4 miles of swimming, 112 miles of cycling, and 26.2 miles of running. When did you hear about it, and did you feel like, that sounds something I'd like to do?
Well, I heard about it at the 1977 Honolulu Marathon. I just come back from running the Marine Corps Marathon where I ran my PR.
And what is that?
With a friend. Excuse me?
What is that PR?
2:27:35.
Oh,
see, Huddle, this is the real deal here.
This is back when guys could run.
Absolutely. Now you run 2:27. They're fitting you for an Olympic outfit. Back then, you're like 2:27. Yeah.
I was always this close to making the Olympic trials with that, but every time I get faster, they'd move the qualifying a little faster.
So you were at the Honolulu Marathon.
And I ran a little ways with some friends, and I ended up dropping out of the race because I had a bad Achilles tendon problem, and my sciatica was kind of acting up. And standing on the sidelines and waiting for a friend of mine to come in to the finish. And I ran the last couple miles with him because he was going a lot slower by then, and my sciatica didn't bother me for that. And he happened to mention that he'd heard about it. And so I thought, hey, that sounds like something I could do because I used to do workouts of that magnitude all the time.
Now, Gordon, you say he'd heard about it. How did he hear about it? Was he sitting in the bar? I mean, this isn't like it was publicized in Triathlete magazine, which didn't exist at the time.
No, but they came up with the idea that running a race awards thing at I think it was the Primo Brewery.
Right.
And that's a lot of the people in the Hawaii running community back then. And the guy's name is George Jones, and he was like always wanted to be the center of the whole running scene.
Right.
He was a pretty good runner, but not a great runner, but he was a good coach, and he worked at one of the running shoe stores, and so he had his ear to the ground on everything that was coming up. And so he heard about it somehow.
And so, Gordon, you were doing that type of working out anyways. You were out swimming and biking and running. What were you doing for work?
Well, at the time of the first Ironman, I was driving a taxi and doing some other part-time things and basically bumming around.
in Oahu?
Yeah.
Well, see, if you're going to bum around,
so I was going to say he's basically doing
what
every other professional triathlete's doing these days.
That's right. Either waiting tables or driving a cab.
Yeah.
Yep, that's what I was doing then.
Yes, things don't change that much. So, Gordon, when you heard about the distances, they didn't intimidate you because you were doing that type of working out anyways.
Well, that's true. Although prior to the first Ironman, right after that Honolulu Marathon, and basically leading up to the race, I'd had a real bad Achilles tendonitis, and I didn't even run the last 6 weeks before the first Ironman. Mostly I was riding 300 or 400 miles a week, swimming once a week just for the fun of it, and working out a Nautilus, and that was it.
So, Gordon, just out of curiosity, you're riding 300 or 400 miles a week. What kind of bike are you riding? What kind of clothing did you have going? Shoes,
well,
all that
then,
stuff, disc wheels?
That was kind of pre-Lycra.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So you had wool going.
Yeah, I had wool and some other man-made fibers. I'm not sure what they were.
Wait, you were wearing wool bike shorts?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is always nice when it's 90 degrees and 90% humidity.
In Hawaii,
that's Hawaii for you.
Yeah. What kind of bike do you have?
At that time, I was riding an old Raleigh. Let's see, what was it? It was kind of like a touring bike.
Like
Titanium?
a super sport.
Titanium, carbon?
It was 531.
531. That's cool. Columbus 531.
He knew his stuff back then. You were like, compared to some of the other bikes in the field, you must have felt
I didn't have a free spirit or anything like that, like Schwinn.
Free spirit.
With a banana seat and the high bars.
Well, I didn't quite go that far, but yeah, they had some pretty simple bikes.
When you were looking at the other people in this event, there's 15 people signed up and I think 12 finished. We were looking at who looked to be somebody who might be competitive with you.
Well, John Dunbar, basically.
Yeah, you could tell pretty much right away.
Well, I knew him personally, and he'd run a 2:39 marathon, so I knew he was the second fastest marathoner in the field.
Right.
And I figured I was probably the fastest biker and the fastest runner, but he was the fastest swimmer, so...
So you figured you'd be chasing a little bit.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened.
Now, Gordon, I can't imagine any of this. I mean, just the race logistics alone freak me out. I can't imagine what the start was like, and then you're thinking, we're just going to go ride now around Oahu. It's not like they're closing intersections for you, and then you get on the run course. It's not like you have aid stations out there.
Yeah. Well,
what was the deal?
Traffic wasn't nearly as heavy back in 1978 as it is now in Oahu, which is why we moved it to Kona in the first place.
Right.
Yeah.
But I had a friend, who actually a fellow employee at the Nautilus Fitness Center, where Valerie Silk used to own the Nautilus. And he used to be a modern pentathlete. He was a masseuse and an athlete. I think he'd gone blind in one eye for some reason, so he couldn't really be an athlete anymore. But he was really still into fitness and all that.
Yeah.
And he totally organized it for me. I had 2 follow-up vehicles. His then fiance was baking cookies for me, and she was the official photographer of my team.
So you got a cook you got somebody making cookies. You got 2 vehicles. I mean,
this is like
people
Luke,
now
he's like Luke Van Leeuwen
getting screwed.
Yeah,
you had a good deal.
I had people pacing me at the end.
I'm telling Charlie Crawford about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we had different rules back then.
You could do whatever you wanted back then, Huddle.
That's right. And I had one guy running on one side of me carrying a bottle of water, one guy running on the other side of me carrying some defizzed Coke,
right?
Which I really don't like. I'd rather have the fizz in it at that point.
Yeah.
And I was just so energized once I passed John at the end that I ran the last 5 miles, 5.2 in 31 minutes. So
well,
feeling good.
Now, Dunbar, and I've heard this story before, where he ran out of water and all of a sudden the only thing he could get that was liquid was beer.
Well, I've heard that story too, and I've never actually sat down and talked to him about it.
Yeah.
But I think he may have just been hallucinating already and didn't know whether it was beer or not. I can't imagine somebody giving him beer on purpose.
Now, when do you remember passing him, or was it one of those things where he was on the other side of the van, or
did you taunt him?
I caught him several times during the run.
Oh, you did?
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, I had gained. I was 20 minutes behind him after the swim.
Right.
I was 12 minutes behind him after the bike, and it took me till I think the 15-mile mark where I first saw him.
15-mile mark.
And I caught him probably at 4 or 5 times, like at 18, 20, 21, 20.
And then,
so wait, you'd catch up and then he would run away from you?
No, usually what I'd do is I'd catch up with him, and then I'd stop for one reason or that, to go to the bathroom, or I started to get a little cramp and had the guy massage it out of me, and I'd catch back up with him. And,
have a hot cookie.
Yeah, I'd get something. I figured that if I kept catching him, I must be faster than he is.
I'd go with that.
Once I finally passed him at 21, I saw how bad he looked.
Yeah.
I felt really good at that point.
Yeah.
Both psychologically and physically, which surprised me, and just ran to the end.
You know what, Babbitt? You know what amazes me? What I just heard there, it was well before that last sentence, but last 5.1 miles in 31 minutes. Basically right around 6 minutes a mile.
Yeah.
How many pro men are running the last 5 miles today?
Right
today. I bet you would find
Very few.
Maybe the winner, maybe one or two, and that's about it. That's impressive.
So unfortunately, the first 21 weren't quite.
Well, but still, I mean, I still finishing off an Ironman like that. Yeah,
you ran 3:30.
Yeah, 3:27. Yeah. You could take off the transition time.
Oh, there you go. See, he's already taken the transition time.
So his bike probably weighed 30 pounds, and what I mean, it's
big
not
time.
And here's the best part, though. I mean, what about the aid stations? Obviously, you had a support car and all, but what about nutrition? I mean, how much did you know about nutrition, about hydration, about hyponatremia, the salt aspect, all those things?
Actually, I knew quite a bit about it because I had been keeping track of virtually everything I ate or drank for several years up to that point.
Really?
Nice.
Yep. What was your background, Gordon?
Well, I actually have a degree in physics, but I spent a lot of time studying exercise physiology and taking extra PE classes. In fact, everybody at school thought I was a PE major because I was down at the gym so much.
I knew he was a physics major.
My major's physics. Oh, yeah, that's why you're down at the gym all the time.
Yeah, and the physics instructor's going, I've never seen the guy.
Exactly.
I don't know who he is. Now, was the thought, obviously you were trying to make the Olympic trials for running.
Yeah.
When all of a sudden you win this Ironman thing, this brand new deal, did you feel like, oh, maybe this will become a sport? Maybe this is my gig?
Well, I thought it should have been a sport.
Yeah.
And I went into the second Ironman with the idea that I would be even better than I was the first time.
Right.
Unfortunately, I came down with a sinus infection a couple of weeks beforehand. I went to Hawaii early January, well, maybe it was late December.
Yeah.
And the race was in January that year.
Right.
And I remember I ran a pretty good 10K just before the race, but it took a lot out of me.
Yeah.
And the sinuses just didn't. You know how you kind of feel weak from when you have a sinus infection?
You just sort of, as our swim coach says, you feel sort of teeny. You don't feel quite there.
Yeah, and that was pretty much the way I felt going into the race, and that's why I didn't. Well, then we had the really bad swim.
Oh, and that didn't help you any.
Yeah, I dropped from. The first year I did a 119 swim. The second year was like 152 because of the 6-foot swells and 40-knot winds.
I see Tom Warren was 106 and you were 152.
Yeah.
Oh, that ball game. That's
a
toughie to come back from that.
Yeah, well, I still had a pretty good run at the end. And ended up managing to finish fourth, but it took a long time to get back there.
Now, obviously, you win the first time out and you finish fourth. There's nothing wrong with finishing fourth. And did you come back in 1980?
Yes, I did. That was my best one ever.
Really?
Yeah, I ended up running 10:58 in that and finished sixth.
Wow.
So
you're just getting faster, but you're losing places.
Yeah, I ran the last 10 miles of that one in 61 minutes.
Oh, man.
Because I was back. I mean, I had a great ride, and my best swim is like a 1:13, I think it was at that point.
Yeah.
And for a non-swimmer like me, that wasn't bad.
No, that's really good.
Yeah, but part of it was because they moved this behind the reef back and forth, so it was a lot smoother.
That's the one I did.
Yeah.
and did you look at the surf the day? Actually, it's probably what you had to swim in the year before.
Yeah, it was. That's why we moved it.
Yeah, which I still be out there right now if they kept it where it was supposed to be. Ned Overend and I would be. Yeah, we would be still bobbing for waves. Gordon, when you look back and you see where the sport started, and now you came back in '98 and raced, and you're racing this year for the 25th anniversary, are you amazed at where the sport has come and as quickly as it has?
Well, yes, I am, and part of it's because I wasn't paying attention for a couple of years in there.
Yeah. Finding you was pretty hard, actually, I have to admit.
I've been living in the same place since 1989, but I technically still live in Denver. But,
right.
After '89, a few of us got banned for life from the Ironman, so I was kind of out of it for a while.
Oh, okay. That whole John Dunbar thing.
Yeah.
Okay, I remember that.
John and I started an Ironman distance triathlon in Maui.
Right.
In '94.
Right.
And so I did that in '94 and '95, and then again in '98 prior to coming back. In fact, I did the '98 one a week before the '98 Kona race.
Right.
And that was interesting, doubling back a week later to another Ironman.
God.
Gordon, what do you remember about Hawaii when you did it those first couple of years in 1978, 79, and 80, and compared to today? I mean, there are some obvious things, but maybe there are some not so obvious things that the rest of us don't realize.
Well, let's see, what can I say about that? The number of people who were aware of it is certainly different.
Sure.
The people who knew about it the first couple of years were the basic core of runners in Hawaii, Mid-Pacific Road Runners Club. They weren't all just runners. A lot of them did swimming and cycling as well. And we used to have an annual swim-run race at Ala Moana.
Right.
Between the swim club and the running club. So there were a lot of runners who swam and a lot of swimmers who ran. And of course, the events that made up the Ironman, like the Around the Island bike race, I had done that with a friend of mine. We did the swim-run race at Ala Moana and then hopped on our bikes for the second day of the Around the Island bike race. You remember, it used to be Tuesday
sure.
Stage race. And so we were doing, that was in 1973 when he and I basically did a triathlon out of that.
Wow.
And nowadays, people would do triathlon and stuff like that all the time. I mean, it's no big deal. But there were a few of us hardcore guys back in the beginning would do that sort of thing.
Gordon, because you'd been riding so much, and obviously you had such a great background in running, did you go into the race, the first one, thinking, okay, I should be able to do this in about 12 hours? Or did you really go in blind, going, I don't know how long this is going to take?
Well, I didn't really know how long it would take. I thought I could probably win it.
Right.
I knew that my marathon was faster than anybody else's, but I didn't. I knew I couldn't run a 2:27 because I couldn't do it even without the other stuff in front of it. That close to having done a 2:27.
Yeah.
Obviously, since I dropped out of the Honolulu Marathon, and back then I was prone to doing way too many marathons and too close together and too much mileage. Because, like in 1973, I did 4 marathons in 6 weeks at one point, and they had through some other races, including the Around the Island bike race, in the middle of all that.
Right.
Back in January of '73, I ran 500 miles just to get ready for all that stuff. So it worked running the marathon.
Right.
And I actually won the Maui Marathon in the process, in the middle of all that. But then the next week after I went to Boston, and didn't even break 3 hours. So. Did
the Achilles injury, obviously in '78, because you were injured, you couldn't run? Do you think going into that race and not having beat yourself up like you normally would have might have led to you having such a good race?
Well, I'm sure that had a lot to do with it. I felt a lot springier in my legs.
Yeah, especially that last 10K.
I wasn't pounding them to death with biking, obviously not pounding.
Right.
And I certainly had the strength from that. Because I would go out and ride around the island a couple times a week. And,
so you basically were doing the course and training.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when you ride that many miles in a week, there aren't that many miles on the island.
Right. There's not that many places to go. There's like one road.
Yeah, you go all the way around, or you can go over the Poly, or you can ride through the streets of town, or up and down the hills, or around Diamond Head a few times.
Good. Now, what did your friends think about, okay, he's going out to ride his stupid bike again? What's he up to? He's driving the cab, and he's riding his bike.
Well, it was kind of interesting. Most of my friends were either runners or bikers or the people at the cab company.
Right.
And the guys at the cab company, they just thought I was kind of strange. Of course, they were all gay anyway. But it was an interesting cab company. I didn't realize that when I got hired there.
Right.
But it was a living, and I had a couple of them weren't, but I had a couple of good friends in there, and they weren't real athletes or anything. They were just
right.
I mean, they're cab drivers.
Right. Yeah. Right. And the hours. I mean, were you driving at night? Were you driving?
Yes, I was driving at night from 6 at night to 6 in the morning.
Oh, and then you'd get up.
Then you'd get up and go train all day.
What'd you sleep till noon and then go out and train?
Well, a lot of the times I would get off at 6 and I'd run. I didn't have my own car, or I just had my bike.
Yeah.
I would run over to the fitness center, the Nautilus Center, and work out because it was open 24 hours.
Right.
And so I'd be there at 6 o'clock in the morning, 6:30, and then I'd run the rest of the way back to the house I was renting a room in up on Tantalus, and then I'd sleep till noon or 1 o'clock, and then I'd go do my swim in the afternoon, and then rest again, and then go to work. I usually took a nap before I went to work, so I'd be able to stay up all night.
I was going to say.
Well, at least you're sitting down.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true. I could sit in the cab stand for a while and take a quick nap and wait for the radio to wake me up for my next call or something like that.
Gordon, when you saw Tom Warren in '79, did you know anything about that guy? I mean, obviously, we've got the photos beforehand. It's John Dunbar in his Superman costume, and it's Gordon Haller, and you guys are standing there shaking hands out in the grass. And here's the matchup, Gordon Haller and John Dunbar, and then this guy who owns a tavern in San Diego wins the thing.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, because Sports Illustrated was there, that is the impetus of what put the sport on the map.
Well, that's true. Because I remember they had like 11 pages in Sports Illustrated.
Yeah. And you're probably going, why weren't you here last year?
Exactly.
Well, how about a little love? I was here last year. I won the thing for the first time. Where were you boys?
A little something for
Well,
the
I got
effort.
my picture in the article anyway.
You did. I know.
I spent quite a while talking to Barry over dinner before that article came out, too. That was kind of fun. But and then, of course, after that, then Wide World Sports picked it up.
Right.
Because of Barry's article. It was really a big deal.
So, 1980, ABC Wide World Sports comes over, and they cover the event, and now it's starting to catch on a little bit. This Dave Scott guy wins it, and the event's getting some notoriety. John Howard's the Pan American gold medalist in cycling, the cyclist of the 70s. So, there's sort of a little buzz there. Are you thinking, all right, I'm fifth here, I'm sixth, I can make a living doing this? Was that ever a thought?
No, I never thought about that, because by the time people started making money on it, I was somewhat past my prime.
Yeah.
'Cause I was 35 in 1985, which was the last time I had a really fast time.
Right.
Actually, I did 2 that year. I did Japan, and then I did Kona.
Yeah.
I had a 10:59 in Japan and finished fairly high up. And then in Kona, I would have been about 10:50, except that I had a flat tire and ended up 11:07. Partly because the bike shop that was sponsoring me had glued the tire on so tight I couldn't get it off.
That's always nice.
It took forever to get that off. I had tire irons to get off the pull-up tire.
I've seen Dave Scott do the same thing. Oh, man.
Hey, Gordon, how weird was it going back in '98?
I'm not sure I would call it weird. It was really pretty exciting and quite an honor to be one of those people who'd won it. Like,
sure.
When they had the tents for giving out signing the autographs and everything.
Yeah.
I'm next to Luke Van Laird.
Right.
And then I'm riding on the float with Tinley and the Puntos twins and Molina and Warren, and think, wow, this is fantastic. And then we get a picture at the end, and I'm with Karen Smyers and Heather Fuhrer, and like, whoa, these are the guys you read about, and I'm one of them.
You are one of them.
You're
Come on, you're friggin' the
them.
first one. You're a legend.
It was just an amazing experience.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it was weird, but it was certainly something I didn't really expect to have happen way back in the beginning.
Well, Gordon, I mean, obviously, at the beginning, these things were an adventure, and the fact that you had the guts and you'd been actually training for the thing, and you're sort of like Dave Scott. Dave Scott was doing what the Ironman encompassed on his own before the Ironman existed. It sounded like you were the same type of guy.
Yeah, I had read a lot of the stories about the way he trained in Davis, and I thought, hey, that's just what I do.
That is great, yeah.
Well, maybe not as fast.
Well, you guys sound a lot alike. It's just like that, hey, my day isn't complete unless I work out 2, 3, 4 hours a day.
Well, that's the way it was back then. Now if I can get 2 or 4 hours a week, I'm excited.
All right. Hey, Gordon, thanks so much for taking time.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
It's so cool to have the first Ironman champion, 1978. And Gordon, you have any goals for this year?
Well, I certainly want to do it faster than I did it in 98.
Yeah.
Which was?
Actually, I don't know. I think I did it in like 14 and a half hours.
Yeah.
Just because it was the second one in 2 weeks. Both of them I did were about 14 and a half hours.
Well, you're not supposed to do them in 2 weeks, Gordon.
No, I know. But I'm thinking my swimming's going pretty well. I should get close to as fast as I ever was in the swim. Just because I was never that good before. And the bike's going really well here.
Yeah.
And
you still got the Raleigh?
Actually, I have. Well, it's kind of interesting. It's a different Raleigh. I gave that one to my brother. Then I got another one, and I crashed that one, and now I've got another one. Actually, I've had this one since 1980.
Babbitt, surely someone could scare up a little bike for Gordon out there.
I think Gordon.
Well, if I could find somebody to give me a Kestrel or a Quintana.
I think we'll get you.
we'll
get you Griffin. We'll get you something.
Yeah.
We'll stay in touch and get you whatever you want.
That'd be great.
Yeah. Email.
To be aerodynamic.
Go to your shop and get your sizes and stuff, Gordon, and email them to me.
Okay.
We will totally take care of you on that.
Well, that'd be great because we got this bike shop that sponsors our GNAC club here.
Right.
And I go get fitted there or something.
So, are you working in physics?
Actually, I'm a computer programmer.
Same thing.
Wow, same thing exactly.
Yeah, I've been in programming since 87, I think it was, 86.
Cool.
Yeah.
You're probably happy to leave the cab behind.
Well, yeah. Although it was okay when I was single, but I got a wife and 3 kids. And
yeah, they don't dig the
my
6
oldest one's going to college this next fall, and
oh, it's amazing.
my youngest will be an 8th grader this coming year, and my other one's going to be a senior.
Yeah, and if your oldest one came to you and said, "Hey, Dad, I'm going to move to Hawaii. I'm going to drive a cab from 6 at night till 6 in the morning," you'd have them put away.
Well, I would think my son would probably do that.
Yeah.
He's 13, and I was mountain biking with him in Tahoe.
Yeah.
Just 2 days ago, just yesterday now. I think.
Yeah.
And he's a heck of a bike rider going downhill on a mountain bike. He blew me away. It scared me. But, he rides his mountain bike all the time back in Denver, and
Yeah.
it's no big deal for him. I haven't been on a mountain bike since '94 when I did that Southern Traverse in New Zealand.
Oh, you did the Southern Traverse.
Yeah.
God, you're sort of a man for all seasons. But
Endurance
adventure
freak.
racing?
Well, I've always kind of thought of myself as a renaissance man of athletics.
You
I
are.
used to do the military pentathlon as well.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Was a world champion in that, too, actually, in 1981.
Yeah, but I see a new sport coming out of him
really
in the
do.
next couple of years.
You
I'm
got
sure
it.
there's
You-
going to be something else weird.
Absolutely.
Well, if there is, maybe I'll get into it.
All right. Hey, Gordon, thanks again.
No problem. Appreciate it.
All right, Gordon Haller, 1978 Ironman champion.
That was great, Babbitt.
Don't you think?
Awesome.
Really
Fantastic.
fun
Love
guy to
talking
talk
to
to.
that guy.
I just think it's so cool to go into something like that. You don't know.
No,
I mean, how do you
don't.
know? What, I mean, I was out there with
You know what's
panniers
amazing,
and a
though, is
tent.
like
I
you
didn't
said,
know.
he knew a lot more than I think a lot of people give those guys credit for.
He knew what type of tubing he had on his bike, Huddle. I had solid rubber tires, and this guy knew what type of tubing he had.
He knew what to eat and drink.
What was he thinking?
Thank you so much for listening to this edition of Babbittville Classic Rewind. And don't forget to check out our huge library of interviews with the most decorated triathletes in history on Breakfast with Bob.
Ask me what I want to be, and I will say I will be